Yo, what's going on, guys? And today we'll be talking about Pacome Dadiet. Hopefully I said that. Is it Pacome or Pacome? Either way, Dadiet is a guy that might end up being traded after having been a first-round pick in last year's draft. So the report goes a little like this, that the New York Knicks are actively exploring the trade market for 2020 first-round pick Pacome Dadiet, reaching out to several teams to gauge his value. We don't know which teams yet, but that's the report coming from Jake Fischer of Bleacher Report and the Stein Line. League sources tell him the belief is that the Knicks started Dadiet in their preseason opener to showcase him for potential suitors. Now, moving him would open up an additional roster spot, allowing New York to retain 2 veteran camp invites instead of just 1. And we know Landry Shamet and Malcolm Brogdon is the expected favorite duo, but Garrison Mathews, one of the best deflectors and an underrated three-point shooter, is someone who might be making a case for himself. And we know as well with the New York Knicks roster, if we want to real quickly just read it off, that they probably would want a trade that they receive nothing in return, either cash or second-round picks, or a deal that would be a non-guaranteed contract that they could waive, sort of like how Colby Jones was traded for Dylan Jones and then was immediately waived by the Oklahoma City Thunder after the Wizards trade they did. Now, the Knicks currently, if we pull up the rosters here at hoopshype.com, my work, go check it out and hit that like and subscribe button if you guys enjoy this type of content. And comment down below which team do you guys believe will take on Pacome Dadiet. And Jalen Brunson, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, and Karl-Anthony Towns are the obvious starting lineup, with Mitchell Robinson, Gershon Yabusele, Jordan Clarkson, Deuce McBride being the expected core bench unit, with Malcolm Brogdon, Garrison Mathews, Landry Shamet, Matt Ryan, Alex Lynn, all competing for spots. And we know that Mohamed Diawara is competing with Donovan Williams for a two-way spot that Trey Jemison, Tosan, and Kevin McCullough all occupy. So that kind of gives you guys a rundown of what's going on. And currently, with the training camp going on, we know that they want a shooter and a ball handler, which puts the Shamet, Brogdon, Garrison Mathews trio as making New York's motivation quite straightforward. They aim to convert the developmental project into an immediate roster flexibility, aka salary cap gymnastics. At 6'8", the DA is a tall shooter who has some athleticism and positional versatility as a combo forward to really affect both ends of the floor. And I think he's someone that, if you guys haven't been watching, I know last year he only appeared in 18 games, 6 minutes, like just really stats that don't mean anything because he wasn't able to do anything except playing garbage time. And if you guys watch the preseason at all or paid attention, I think one of the biggest things that people need to understand is that this year is going to be different for the Knicks. They're going all in, and he's played so far in Abu Dhabi in 2 games, 23 minutes. He's only hit 1 of 8 attempts. It wasn't pretty, but he did try, and it's preseason basketball, so take it with a grain of salt. Now we're going to go ahead and talk about the potential teams that he could be targeted by, or, that would have an interest in him. By the way, this is someone shot 41% almost from the field in the G League, almost 32% from 3. His G League stats last year in 23 games, 32 minutes a night, 14 points, 5.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists, while averaging just under a steal a night and 2 turnovers, 83% from the free throw line. He has a good form, but trading him to a team that is rebuilding, as he represents a low-risk contract. He has a team option for next year, so if they don't like him, they can move off of him, but they definitely would have a cost-controllable deal for the next few years, as the Knicks were probably looking to trade him just for a second-round pick or cash to help clear salary in a roster spot to get a veteran. Now, we're going to go ahead and talk about the most obvious team, and that's the Washington Wizards. Pacome Dadiet is someone who would go for a future second-round pick, maybe 2 at most. I just think it's very clear with Brian Keefe, a good developmental coach as well as a good defensive coach, is deep into this rebuild that is led by former Oklahoma City Thunder executives, even though technically Michael Winger did come from Los Angeles, the Clippers, but all of them have their roots being former Sam Presti guys. So with that being said, they love their size, as you can see it with Alex R, Keyshawn George, Bob Carrington, Cam Whitmore, who else we're going to throw in there? Bilal Coulibaly. I think adding Didade, which, by the way, Didade is someone that's also French. Alex R, Bilal Coulibaly, 2 Frenchmen. And Keyshawn George is Swiss Canadian. There's just a lot of international players on this roster. So all of them are fitting into the modern athletic mold archetype that they want. A rangy forward like Didade would really help, I think, this team out, stretch the floor, be able to defend multiple positions, at least 2 through 4, and grow within this without any pressure. And with Chris Middleton probably serving as the veteran mentor leader, the adult in the room with CJ McCollum, he's going to help, maybe shape what good habits and practices a guy like Pacome would need to do. And I think Didade would slide into this hybrid forward off the bench role where he would serve as a backup to George and Whitmore and work on his ball handling and playmaking while being able to show that in slashing situations and transition, he could complement the up-tempo backcourt that is Carlton Carrington and Trey Johnson. Now, going over to the Pistons, they would be a second-round pick or cash considerations. Again, a combo forward. Pistons are looking for more shooting, even though they did bring in Duncan Robinson and Karis LeVert. Malik Beasley doesn't seem to be coming back, and Jaden Ivey's coming back. Now, they do have Asar Thompson, who returned. I think Didade would not feel pressure, and he would be developed as a rotational wing who could seamlessly toggle into that 3-4 spot, adding some complementary scoring and some length on the defensive side. And he would be able to pair with Ron Holland, their first-round pick the year before. So I think the Detroit bench lacks, obviously, some of the consistent shooting that they had last year, and Simone Fontecchio being gone. I think Didade could come there, be that off-ball movement shooter, which are 2 areas a European background that Didade has would be able to allow him to figure out the role that a coach like Mr. obviously Trajan Langdon, JB Bickerstaff, and Trajan Langdon, the executive in charge, would want. And obviously having someone like Tobias Harris, who has a polished 3-level game, mid-range scorer, kind of similar game to Didade as when Harris was younger, could allow him to develop seamlessly and develop that versatility that they would want if they move forward with Ivy being the pairing for Cunningham in the future. And having Didade would be another player that helped create easy looks in transition and be a spot-up shooter whenever they need. Now, the Utah Jazz, another team that's rebuilding, and why not? They would send them a future second-round pick. I really don't think a first-round pick is going to be traded here because of the leverage that the Knicks do not have. And as a result, we know Austin Ainge is looking for a bunch of young guys, and Will Hardy's a good coach. The system that they have is built for a player like Didade, a young, toolsy, shooting, versatile player with size, 6'8", and they're a forward-heavy team. Cody Williams, Lauri Markkanen, Taylor Hendricks, Bryce Sensabaugh. There's a lot of guys on this team already that you would say, okay, would they want another player to take minutes for someone? But I think they're at a point where they're just trying to stack talent, and whatever cream rises to the top is the players that they hope to be the building blocks. As I mentioned before, they do have George Niang, Ace Bailey. Kyle Filipowski's more of a front court player, but Bryce, Cody, a little bit of Lowry, George Niang, Ace Bailey would all be competing for some of those minutes. So would C. Mikhailuk, Taylor Hendricks, and Kyle Anderson. So that would make it a little bit tougher, but they're in a situation where they're just trying to stack and basically accumulate, hoard, create a collection of talent, and just have as much talent possible to see which ones come through. And being able to learn behind Kyle Anderson and Svi Mikhailuk and Lauri Markkanen, while yes, he does have some positional overlap with Taylor Hendricks and Cody Williams specifically, he would be able to learn within the mold and provide depth and not be forced. But his ability to attack closeouts and kind of be a tertiary playmaker could fit the philosophy under Will Hardy that emphasizes movement and floor spacing. And on defense, he has the lateral quickness and the length to guard 2 through 4, especially complementing their interior enforcers, Walker Kessler and Josip Nurkic. Now, obviously, I think the other one is the Brooklyn Nets. They take whatever future second-round pick. He would just have to go to the next borough over. This is a team that is wing-heavy, but they don't really have a long-term developmental option that is outside of, they took a bunch of guards this year with Nolan Traore. They have Yagor Demon. They have Ben Serif. And they also brought in Mr. Terrence Mann and Michael Porter Jr. Noah Clowney is still trying to be figured out, and they're expected to move off of Cam Thomas at some point, maybe Nick Claxton too. They have Danny Wolf that they drafted, Dyer Williams. They brought back Deron Sharp, and Tyrese Martin, Jalen Wilson's there, and Haywood Highsmith. But if you look right there, there's no one really for the future. Dariq Whitehead's not viewed as that. They did bring in Kobe Buffkin. I think Jordi Fernandez being a European head coach, foreign, from Spain, even though he's been in the league for a while, he would fill the gap as a project switchable forward who could actually play alongside Michael Porter Jr. or Cam Thomas or relieve Michael Porter Jr. And the Nets are a team that already deploys a lot of 5-out spacing. Dadiet is someone who, in theory, is a good catch and shooter, and he would fit well into this mold. And he could help be someone that is a connected piece in the second unit and maybe push for the starting role by the end of the year, and he would be able to be on the same timeline as Yagor and Noah Clowney, whoever you want. Then the Memphis Grizzlies love the sloppy seconds of somebody else, and we saw it with Omax. They would take a flyer on someone who is able to play multiple positions, has the toughness, can rebound, and has the defensive potential that fits what they want. With Santi Aldama and Gigi Jackson probably and Jock Landale opening up the year as the starting front court, Dadiet would be able to offer some size and cut, size and some cutting that a bench that may be lacking size and spacing and cutting with Jaren Jackson Jr., Brandon Clark expected to be out for the beginning of the year, and we don't know where Cedric Howard's going to be. So he flashes off-ball shooting ability to attack the basket and be a transition player that would help Ja Morant, and his length would help be an insurance to start the year to Jalen Wells, Contavious Caldwell-Pope, and Vince Williams. So I think he would fit Tomasi Salo, who also is a foreign coach played in, obviously he's from Finland, but he coached in Paris basketball. So he'd be able to help create Dadiet maybe into a impactful rotational hybrid forward in the meantime that fits the Grizzlies' grit and grind ethos with the modern space and pacing that we're expecting Tomasi Salo to bring in. And then the last two teams, the Boston Celtics, are in a gap year. They really have money problems, so they would have to do something. And with Jason Tatum out for the season, he could earn some minutes behind Jaylen Brown and Baylor Shireman and Sam Hauser as a two-way reserve who thrives off ball and is able to take advantage of opportunities in transition. And Joe Mazzulla loves spacing, and he would be able to get maximized as a catch and shooter while being mentored by Sam Hauser, Derek White, Chris Boucher, and whoever it may be. But obviously, given the cap constraints, acquiring Dadiet for cash would be a low-cost investment. This probably maybe open up a bigger move where Sam Hauser gets dealt so they could get further under the cap and have Shireman and Dadiet be the replacements. And then the Chicago Bulls are always looking for stuff, and they're retooling around Josh Giddey, Kobe White, and Matas Buzelis. So I think Dadiet would be someone who mirrors what they're looking for and maybe allow them to make Patrick Williams even more expendable for little to nothing, as I think he fits what they're trying to cultivate, especially with the Noah Esengay draft pick of this year. He would provide bench scoring and defensive energy, being able to rotate between the 3 and 4. Again, we talked about his cutting ability would complement Giddey's and Kobe White's playmaking and what Billy Donovan wants to do in transition, and also would allow more space to operate for Buzelis to, attack the inside. And I think it would create a more dynamic second unit and just a rotation in general. And the long-term upside that he provides fits kind of the timeline that the Bulls are on in this retooling timeline. So he could be the potential 3-and-D defensive glue piece as they transition into a younger, more athletic core. So I think, Pacome Dadiet is someone that the Knicks obviously thought was going to pan out or be used as a trade chip as they're trying right now, but they're trying to achieve the short-term goal of bringing up roster space, which would give whatever team takes him on a promising young forward with, the modern skill sets seen in a positional versatility position that is the combo forward, whether as a stretch four, a slashing wing, a defensive piece. He kind of fits a lot of molds that makes him an intriguing low-cost trade option for a lot of teams. So let me hear your thoughts down below in the comment section. That's it. Bye.